Hey, friends and family. Hey, loved ones. Hey, magicians and gardeners and fools. How are you today? I'm feeling tired today, but I wanted to get on here and share some things about my process of forgiveness. I'm still working through certain layers of forgiveness. And in a way, I have felt a little stuck, I guess, but I know I'm not. Yeah, it's a little bit of both, really. I know it's moving, but it's just slow. And yeah, maybe I just get to slow down too. And I've been working, through all of this. Just one day at a time, doing my best, one moment at a time, one breath at a time. Doing my best to relax and unwind, relax into love, and free my own mind. And so last time I shared about forgiveness, I had written a poison pen letter and started my forgiveness letter, and my forgiveness letter got longer and longer and longer. And so I've been working with that, working through that and playing with that and just looking into that. So I'm just going to share a little bit of what I had written down in my last journal that I just filled up on the 21st. And this is like the second to the last page here. And I think it goes along with my continuity and my follow through. So, forgiveness of betrayal, rejection, abandonment, and compassion. I choose compassion for all others who are grieving deeply and are in fear, pain, or suffering, lost in anger or self-loathing, ego, vanity, pride, or flattery, making assumptions, lost in self-deception, and the savior victim-judge dynamics and groupthink mentality, operating from ego machinations and the emotional pain body, the lower three. So it is interesting to see, because I can transform, see it, meet it, and integrate, release, transmuting these patterns and beliefs, myth stories, distortions, thought forms, projections, perceptions, constructs, dynamics, old ways of operating, old ways of seeing, thinking, and receiving or absorbing others' energy. Yeah. Fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, making nice with our abusers, trying so hard to please and to seek approval and validity from the external authority that can supposedly prove to me my worth, value, legitimacy, belonging, or secure stability for my well-being, for me. Are we addicted? Are we addicted to the feedback or the image, the false image, or the story, the familiar monster that I know? Or are we unconsciously driven? Am I unconsciously driven to prove that I am worthy or deserving? Deserving of belonging, approval, acceptance, and inclusion? Existing, living, breathing, while being free to be, to fully express myself in my sovereignty, my fullness and authenticity. And so, but just looking at those things, really, what is keeping this pattern going, and why is there still a charge for me with certain related triggers when I see them playing outside of me. Yeah. So just kind of looking at certain things that are still, I'm still kind of frustrated by it. I'm not expecting that my frustration just disappears overnight, or that it's not going to come up and show me where I get to, show up for me. And so, I feel like a little more patient this week with that, allowing it to just come up and be felt and released without needing to dissect it and overanalyze it and overthink it, and just kind of meeting the feelings of frustration and go, okay, I'm feeling frustrated. All right, it's okay for me to feel frustrated right now. It's right for me to feel frustrated. Thank you, frustration. Thank you for showing me how I can care for me. And so just paying attention to certain things and being aware of where I'm directing my energy, and if I'm choosing like to distract myself or avoid something. So looking at my dreams, of course, like as I recall them, and as best I can, and just kind of go with the feelings and the themes, and just kind of let myself write it out and dump it onto the page. And so this is what I wrote down the other day, even though like there was only certain snippets of this dream that I could really recall. Like there was a lot of feeling and just kind of using my intuition and just like, yeah, letting myself express how I felt about, yeah, what was coming up or coming through my dream. And so I'm just going to share a little bit. It was on March 24th. I woke up in the morning and wrote this down first thing. So dreaming this morning about some strange dynamic. Someone is entitled and demanding, or playing that part anyway. It's like their way is the end-all be-all, and they are God's gift to the world, the grandiose narcissist. Or they're playing that way, yeah. So an older lady, she's a no-nonsense kind of, yeah, lady, demanding attention and loyalty. She's the upper crust hierarchy. There's no questions asked and no room to deviate in search of that instant gratification or a certain emotional reaction, maybe to exploit, like through those psychological or emotional vulnerabilities. So false comfort, entitlement, the ego operating, master-slave mentality, treating others like they are an ends to a mean or a means to an end. Disposable, useful idiots, hive mind, bored mentality, or the shut down, lower ego beast, servant, serfdom, poverty consciousness. Prove your worth to me kind of a thing. Justify your right to your life or taking up space and existing here. It's an abusive marriage to the nanny state, a dysfunctional hierarchy, wounded parent, wounded child, narcissist, codependent, good girl, good boy, slave, judge, victim, rebel, tyrant, outcast, scapegoat programming. The one going against? Or is it non-compliance? Or is it my emotional resistance? Or am I attempting to claim my sovereignty and my right to decline, refuse, remove, or push them all away? Repress, reject, avoid, resent, express hostility, or project, deflect, protect my energy, my will, my stories, my identity, survival strategies. I don't know, really. So I'm sitting across from a big table, a group of people. A bunch of others are gathered around and they're sharing a meal. So this older lady with short hair and a severe expression snaps her fingers to demand service. She's like, yeah, pretty much not saying anything, but it's like she's communicating to me. And it's like, pass the salt and pepper, please. Or not please, but pass the salt and pepper now. And I toss the pepper grinder to her, and she catches it, and she doesn't say a thing to me, but gestures for the salt grinder. And then I refuse, because fuck that. I don't want to cooperate with this entitled attitude for force sharing and entitlement bullshit. Like, it's like communitarianism or happitalism, dystopian fairy tales, love your slavery and your servitude type of programming. The guilty, sacrificial lamb and unworthiness, virtuous victim, orphan and surrogate and parent, victim, hero, abuser, Stockholm syndrome. Everyone around the table is partly checked out and consuming unconsciously this food of the dead or the underworld. Is it a family meal or the Last Supper? So it's like 1/4 or 1/3 of the wall is like, yeah, between me and them. There's an obstacle. There's like half of a wall, or it's like really like 1/3 of a wall. Like, it's really weird. It's like a gate, but it can be stepped over. Yeah, so it's like or not even half of a wall. It's just there, like a barrier. Like, maybe some kind of armor, some kind of protection, or somewhere where I'm blocking myself. Yeah. Because of being in opposition rather than being in acceptance of this dynamic. So the barrier between where I'm sitting and the table where the others are sitting, I think I'm sitting on a couch or a love seat while they're sitting around like a very large rectangular table. And so, yeah, I decide, like, I'm not going to cooperate, and I flip her off. Just. And I get up and I leave the salt on the couch and I decide to leave the room. And then all of a sudden, I feel like I'm naked. Am I naked now? I don't feel exposed or ashamed, just more natural now. Authentic. Feelings of irritation and frustration. I'm fed up. What's eating me? So what can I sidestep or override, and what's blocking me? So that's what I wrote about that dream. And then I continued a little bit. I've been thinking about Plato's allegory of the cave and the little soul in the sun. I shared that in my last 2 videos. So letting go and allowing what is to fall away and go and be released. I can understand the distrust and the suspicions of those still attached to their chains. The fear, pride, self-righteousness, envy, guilt, shame, self-loathing, and vanity. The arrogance, misguided intentions, and self-deception through ego flattery and psychological manipulation. Avoidance and manipulation is at play. So emotional hijacking and exploitation. These souls are lost in the underworld and the labyrinth of their own suffering, their own making. Victim consciousness. So I'll choose to pray for them rather than judge, reject, and condemn them. Allow them to exist and learn their own ways of healing, being, and remembering, awakening, and seeing. Let go of resistance and let them go on their own way. Let me go on my own way, on my own journey. I release them and I release myself. I release the outcome. I release these stories, roles, and emotions. I release this resistance. I release these identities. I release these blocks and old dynamics and limitations of savior, martyr, black sheep, villain, hero, monster, victim, damsel in distress, knight in shining armor, outcast, rebel, outlaw, orphan, wounded child, and parent. Shedding my old skin and releasing myself from these old limitations, blocks, anchors, and chains, stories, myths, ideas, attachments, lies, and beliefs, identities that are or have become static, stagnant, and rigid. I am a friend to life, and life is a friend to me. I am held, supported, and I am safe to be freely and fully me. And so, yeah, that's just what was coming up for me on the 24th, and just working with that dream and kind of like letting it be, and then being willing to receive more insights into what's eating me. And so, kind of just let myself yesterday just kind of do something different, and was just wanting to create something different and wanting to like find an anchor for stability in certain ways, and wanting to prove myself and my legitimacy. And I realized that was like coming up, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to prove myself worthy. I'm trying to prove that I'm deserving, when I really don't need to. Like, I don't need to prove myself or prove my power. And if I try to prove myself, then I lose it. And so I know that I already have it. And it was also like a desire, like the desire to be seen as right and to be liked and to be accepted and given that stamp of approval and everything. But just kind of silly being silly. But I understand, why I have that need, like, to belong and to be seen as worthy. And so, that's just the theme that's been coming up lately. And So I did watch some inspiring things, and I just want to understand things sometimes. But like, sometimes it's like desiring to understand so much kind of blocks me from understanding. So it's kind of funny. But I did like watch some like really helpful, um, inspiring videos, like that did like help me like gain a little bit more understanding into what's been eating me. And I did find like, yeah, this actually was writing down like some quotes, that I enjoyed and that I appreciated. And that's like one of the things that I've missed about, like, say, social media or Facebook. It's almost been 6 months now. Like, yeah, like certain interactions and things like that I miss. And I miss, the good things that people shared, and like, yeah, just like a little window into what's been happening or going on with them, just a little one. And or yeah, kind of little scripted windows sometimes. What we share we think is acceptable. But yeah, I kind of miss like, yeah, sharing those inspirational quotes and everything, or seeing them for myself, and yeah, sharing them for myself. And so there was one that stood out too. It was not you who ate the idea, but the idea that ate you. And Fyodor Dostoevsky, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but yeah, that's what it was. So yeah, I was just like looking at some things, about like, why are we so psychologically infantile, and what's it going to take for us to grow up? It's going to take a while, you know. And so yeah, so what can I do in the meanwhile, or what can I choose for myself? And I can choose like my own growth and my own ways of being, like, and let the rest of it go. And but yeah, so it's been a potent, magical week, and like it's held everything. So love, abundance, and fertility, activity, sharing and caring, expressing, inviting, opening, and co-creating with friends, partners, lovers, and family. I am what I am. I am all that I am. I know that I am. I am that I am. So another quote that I saw that, yes, I was just like, yep, that's my jam right there. And I love Terence McKenna. So he says, insist on the dignity of human beings. We are not interested in being sexually regulated, intellectually regulated, spiritually regulated, or emotionally manipulated. The state should stand down. Hear, hear, and cheers. So it's about re-empowering the individual and rewilding ourselves, reevaluating what we value. So claim, choose, and act. Trust our intuitions and our inner knowing. And yeah, there was some things that came up that really kind of helped me understand a little bit more about, yeah, what others may be going through or experiencing themselves. And that's like one thing that's changed in a way, was that I found myself being a little more curious about their experience, like what it's been like and what it is now, rather than rejecting, judging, and condemning them. Yeah, for not like being as I want them to be, or seeing as I want them to see. So it was kind of cool in a lot of ways, like to see that and to realize, yeah, okay, that's a good shift. That feels a little bit lighter for me, like to wonder really what their experience is, rather than how they're seeing me, or like, yeah. So it was interesting. There are so many good things here, really, to share, but here's a really good one that I appreciated. So interactions with people are the major source of emotional turmoil. But it doesn't have to be that way. The problem is that we are continually judging people, wishing they were something that they are not. We want them to think and act in a certain way, most often the way that we think and act. And because this is not possible, because everyone is different, we are continually frustrated and upset. Instead, see other people as phenomena. as neutral as comets or plants. They simply exist. Work with what they give you instead of resisting and trying to change them. Make understanding people a fun game, the solving of puzzles. It's all part of the human comedy. Robert Greene, The Laws of Human Nature. And keep away from people who try to belittle your ambitions. Small people always do that, but the really great make you feel that you too can become great. Mark Twain. And so, I am still feeling frustrated and insecure about some things, unsettled or anxious, disappointed, lingering feelings of resentment and expectation. I realized I was feeling angry with them for being stubborn, blind, ignorant, scared, hypnotized, prideful, arrogant, self-righteous, asleep, and vain. I was feeling angry with them for not believing me, accepting me, loving me, validating me, including me, considering me, or agreeing with me. So what do I get to choose to let go of and release? So I release my ego's need and my desire to be accepted, loved, liked, validated, seen, believed, considered, valued, wanted, approved of, and needed. To be seen as right, to be understood, to be considered and or rewarded. And it's like there's this unending desire to prove myself, my worth, my value, my power, and my belonging, to justify and defend my existence. Old bullshit songs and stories. So I release these, I transform these, and I compost these. I offer them all back with love. Thank you. I no longer need to carry those old beliefs and those old ways of operating. I release and surrender those. And so, just being aware of that, like that was what was kind of like keeping me in that, like desperate need, like some kind of desperate need, this unending desire to prove my worth and my validity. And so I had something fun to share about that too, where I opened up a book today, Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender, and I opened it to the chapter of desire, and I'm going to read a couple pages from that, because that was the answers that I asked for. And so, yesterday when I was watching a few videos, and I made a new playlist on my YouTube channel called The Absurd Lens, because just kind of like, can't you see like how fucking absurd this is? Like, it's just, the absurdities, those who can make you believe in absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Voltaire. And it's just like, but again, it's just like, am I creating this playlist for myself, or am I creating this playlist so I can improve myself? And so, there's that to consider and to look at. But I just want the information out there as well. Like, but I could probably refine or be aware of and clear my intentions. Because they might have ulterior motives in certain ways. Like, that does have to do with like ego security, like, and reinforcing my side of the story. So I'm aware of that too. So one quote was that Chekhov made a vow to himself: no more bowing and apologizing to people, no more complaining and blaming, no more disorderly living and wasting time. The answer to everything was work and love, work and love. Robert Greene, The Law of Human Nature, talking about Anton Chekhov. And so, I just wrote this little snippet: work, love, and play, joy, passion, curiosity, practice and play, dedication and devotion, participation, engagement, expectation, and desire without attachment, love and respect in word and action. Let go of the outcome, always do my best in action, in thought, in word, in deed, in feeling, in play, and in practice. Play is receptive, relax into love and reception. And here's a quote from Anton Chekhov. Write about how this young man squeezes the slave out of himself drop by drop, and how one fine morning he wakes to find that the blood coursing through his veins is no longer the blood of a slave, but that of a real human being. Anton Chekhov. So yeah, I appreciated that. Like it is like a drop by drop, slow drip. But sometimes it can come in as a flood. So yeah, so I was feeling angry with them for not seeing and for playing at being dumb muggles. Like, remember who you are, damn it, why are you playing so small? Like, yeah, in a lot of ways. So, and then there's this part of me that really kind of sort of wants an apology, and this must be my entitled victim story. Like, if I feel like I'm owed an apology, you know, this virtuous victim mentality programming. And it's almost like I want them to ask me for forgiveness or a pardon to release them from their sins, and because they've been against me, or to make amends and hear them say, I'm so sorry, you were right and I was wrong. That's music to my ears. But silly me being silly, so silly. So I release the need to be right, to feel right, or to feel self-righteously superior or good enough, worthy of being, belonging, being loved, accepted, liked, and included. Like that are still like, yeah. That must be like my number one, like, survival need. Like, yeah. And that's like what's kind of in the process of dissolving and being broken up there. And so, of course, it's going to keep like kind of coming up to show me where I put a lot of unconscious energy into that, getting those needs met, and like how I can get in my own way and block myself. So I claim my lovability and my goodness, my right to be me, my wholeness and my sovereignty, my right to live fully and freely, my right to my life, my right to my well-being, my right to my choices, my right to my discovery, my right to my own journey, lessons, growth, and recovery, healing, gathering, revealing, remembering all I really am. So stop trying to change me. I am what I am. I just need you to know me. Just know who I am. I don't need you to save me. I don't need you to show me. I stand where I stand. Just know who I am. And that's from like lyrics from a song, yeah, that I really like. And just realizing that, yeah, I don't want them to try and change me. So why would I try and change them? So accept me as I am. Accept them as they are. Accept we as we are. Yeah. Let me be as I am. Let them be as they are. So that was, yeah, yesterday. And then this morning, I was kind of like having a dream, but it like, yeah, it disappeared and submerged again before I was able to really pay attention and gather the threads. But what I feel like it was like kind of, it was some kind of story playing out about being transparent or authentic and not defining ourselves by what we are not, but owning and allowing all we are and all we get to be for ourselves, becoming all we are and all we need. So right prayer, right intention, right attention, right action, right effort, right expression, right feeling, right response, and right being, right intention. So there is no need to struggle so hard. Just let go of resistance and allow it all to exist. Healing the victim consciousness and becoming whole, full, all I am through being no one or no thing at all. Trusting the unknown to be one with all I am through all I am for all I am, with love I am. What do I get to choose, create, discover, learn, receive, offer, give, share, and contribute today? Who do I want to be today? What do I get to praise, thank, bless, invite, praise, and celebrate? What do I get to discover and play with today? What do I get to explore, focus on, attend to, show up for, be with today? What do I get to honor, acknowledge, and appreciate? So, yeah, that's what I get to choose for myself. And yeah, it's power to choose. So I was looking at the stories coming up the last few days, the inner conflicts and the need to please and be seen as right, be seen as true, worthy, enough, be validated, understood, etc. the need to prove myself or justify my right to live, to exist, to belong here. And also looking at my need to save or serve others and to be seen as I want to be seen in a favorable light. Or do I want to be seen on a pedestal? LOL, silly, being silly. And I'm wondering why those that I love and admire or hold in high esteem, those that I respect and care for, could not see through certain lies, stories, and agendas. And I was just wondering, is it due to their age or their generational or cultural identities and their programming? Or are there wounds and insecurities at play? Is it a combination of all of these things? Because we've all been wounded and played, betrayed, and messed with, fucked with so unrighteously in so many fucked up backwards ways. And it's like I'm searching for a lifeline of some kind. Or is it a hook? A place to anchor my little self for my own ego preservation and security and familiarity, belonging, legitimacy, or am I scorekeeping? And is this an old program of measuring worth or value? Constructs of the lower pain body and fragmented identity, perception of belief of story of who I really am. The ego's need to preserve, argue, defend, and pretend. Defend, compete, and pretend. And so, OMG, realizing that I've been upset and angry with them, my elders, teachers, friends, mentors, parents, leaders, family, community, for feeling afraid. Like, frustrated with them for feeling afraid. Like, they shouldn't feel afraid. Yeah, just like, and angry, like feeling angry with them. Yeah, for being addicted to their fear and their stories and their suffering. So, for abandoning themselves and dishonoring themselves and their own power, for not trusting themselves and owning their power, for freeing, for being able to free, see, remember, and love themselves. So, feeling angry because they let me down. Like, that was like, yeah, my disappointment. And feeling angry because maybe I let them down and I let myself down. And so, disappointment, expectation, and resentment. Like, there's this little wounded child that says, you were supposed to know. Why were you pretending? And reinforcing this old untrue story, defending the limited ways that things are done and disordered, dishonored. Through false stories, descriptions, and ego attachments, prescriptions and addictions, programs, poisons, toxins that recycle guilt, greed, pride, vanity, shame, fear, loathing, and hate, the trauma of separation. So I forgive us for not knowing, for feeling afraid and clueless, for pretending we're all-knowing, because science, sheer will, and worldly power, might makes right. He with the most toys wins. He with the golden stamp certificate. He with the golden calf. He with the golden staff. He with the priestly class. He with the dumb ass yelling the loudest, telling the best story for his own vainglory. And then, yeah, it was like, really? This is you versus you? Or is it us against them? Divide and rule to cool the fools and control the minds of the masses. Addicted and attached to our own stories, perceptions, agendas, illusions, confusion, lower emotions, and escape patterns. So our routines of familiarity and our comfort zones. They all contribute to the domination, fear, and control. Enough is enough. What else is possible? Courage, faith, trust, and at one-ment. Atonement. So I've been thinking about different friends, former allies, and family members, and wondering what their experience has been and is right now. Wondering where they're coming from rather than judging and labeling them as wrong. Just remembering certain arguments or disagreements that we've had and where we have not seen eye to eye, heart to heart, or mind to mind. Where we have been deaf, dumb, and blind, where we have been hypnotized, paralyzed, conditioned, partitioned, fragmented, and encouraged to lie. To lie to ourselves through the lower ego or lower mind, our shut down hearts, and our closed off minds. I know it's really already fine and is all in the process of being refined. But some parts of me still feel wounded and exiled, rejected and betrayed. My inner child. She's having a hard time trying to reconcile all the stories, hurts, and lies. The grieving process and cleaning it up, rebuilding, rewiring, rewilding to reunify. Am I wanting to be clever and to prove myself right? What else can I choose to align with and be for myself? To write this for me and we. I claim all I am, my sovereignty, my love, my power to choose, and my right to be, my responsibilities, and my power to care for me. And so, yeah, then I opened up my book, The Pathway of Surrender, Letting Go by David R. Hawkins. And I opened it to page 108. And I was just talking about, at the top of the page, especially strong desire, e.g. cravingness, frequently blocks our getting what we want. Why is this so? Actually, the way something comes into our life is because we have chosen it. It was the result of our intention, or we made a decision for it. It has come into our life in spite of desire. The desiring was actually the obstacle to its achievement or acquisition. This is because desire literally means I do not have. In other words, if we say that we desire something, we are saying that it isn't ours. So when we say that it isn't ours, we put a psychic distance between ourselves and what we want. This distance becomes the obstacle that consumes energy. The impossible becomes possible as soon as we are totally surrendered. This is because wanting blocks receiving it and results in a fear of not getting it. The energy of desire is, in essence, a denial that what we want is ours for the asking. This is a different way of looking at achieving goals than the one we are used to from the programming of our world. We are used to picturing ambition and success as being associated with hard work and the classical Protestant ethic virtues. These include self-sacrifice, asceticism, great expenditure of effort and endeavor, keeping our nose to the grindstone, tightening our belt, buckling down, and all the grimness of hard work. When we look at this whole picture, it sounds arduous, doesn't it? Well, it is. It involves struggle, and the struggle results from the block we have put in our own way because of desire. Let's compare the arduous lower consciousness way of achieving goals with a higher state of consciousness in which we have acknowledged and let go of the desire and are in a freer state. In a freer state, that which is chosen manifests in our life effortlessly. We surrender the emotion of desire and, instead, merely choose the goal, picture it lovingly, and allow it to happen because we see that it is already ours. Why is it already ours? In a lower state of consciousness, the universe is seen as negative and denying, frustrating, and reluctant. It is like a bad, stingy parent. In a higher state of consciousness, our experience of the universe changes. It now becomes like a giving, loving, unconditionally approving parent who wants us to have everything we want, and it is ours for the asking. This is creating a different context. It is giving the universe a different meaning. Although the world may be stingy and hostile to other people, there is no reason why we should buy into this paradigm. When we buy into it, we make it that way in our own life. As we experience the letting go of desires, we begin to see that what we have chosen will come into our life almost magically. What we hold in mind tends to manifest. As was said before, during times of supposed high unemployment, some people are not only employed but have 2 or 3 jobs. This was a shockingly new way of looking at the world when it was first encountered. There was the hope that it was true, but also a skepticism that said, this just isn't possible on a pragmatic level. A strict Protestant ethic background made it hard to believe. Nonetheless, the willingness was there to be open-minded enough to give it a try. Here was the initial experience with letting go of desire. Personal goals were written down, followed by a letting go of the desire for them. It sounded paradoxical, but that is the process. Identify the goals and then let go of wanting them. One goal that had been held in mind for several years was an apartment in New York City because work commitments required a lot of commuting and money spent on hotel rooms. A small apartment in the city, a so-called pied-à-terre, would be the economical solution. Apartment in New York City was written down as a goal. When utilizing this way of achieving goals, we include all of the details, as impossible as they may seem to the rational mind to achieve. So the ideal apartment was detailed, reasonably priced, on Fifth Avenue in the 70s block, right next to an entrance to Central Park, at least 8 or 9 floors up and in the rear, so that the street noise would be minimized and not any bigger than about 2.5 rooms. The next day at work, it was busy as usual with a big caseload, meetings, and patient visits. In between the meetings and patients, the feelings of wantingness for the apartment would be acknowledged and let go. And as the day progressed, the apartment was actually forgotten. At 4:30 p.m., after the last patient, there was suddenly the impulse to drive into the city. Despite the fact that it was ostensibly rush hour, the road was clear and the drive took only half an hour. The car cruised to about 73rd and Lexington, pulling up to the nearest real estate office. Rather magically, there happened to be a parking space open right in front of the real estate office. The real estate officer, upon hearing the tongue-in-cheek announcement that an apartment on Fifth Avenue is desired, looked with surprise and said, "Well, you are certainly in luck. Exactly 1 hour ago, we listed the only apartment for rent on all of Fifth Avenue at 76th Street on the 9th floor. It's the rear apartment, 2.5 rooms, and the rent is reasonable, rent controlled at $500 a month. It has just been painted and you can move in any time." So we walked over and viewed the apartment. It fit the description of the goal exactly. The lease was signed on the spot. Thus, within 24 hours of trying the letting go technique on a specific personal goal, the goal was a reality. It had been something that was almost impossible to find, and yet it happened exactly as pictured, effortlessly and with no negative emotions. It was an easy and joyous experience. This is not an unusual experience, but a typical one, because in this case, the desire was moderate and could, without much effort, be totally surrendered. By being totally surrendered, this means that it was okay if the apartment happened, and it was okay if it didn't. Because of being totally surrendered, the impossible became possible, manifesting itself effortlessly and rapidly. We can all doubt this mechanism and look back at things that we wanted and that were achieved through ambition, desire, craving, and even obsessive, frenzied wanting. The mind says, well, what if I had let go of the desire for those things? If it weren't for the desire, how would I have gotten them? The truth is, we could have gotten them anyway, only without anxiety, the fear of not getting. Without all the energy expenditure, without all the effort, without all the trial and error, and without all the hard work. Well, the mind says, if we got it effortlessly, how about the pride of achievement? Wouldn't we have to sacrifice that? Well, yes, we would have to relinquish the vanity of all that sacrifice and hard work that we put into it. We would have to give up the sentimentality about the self-sacrifice and all the pain and suffering that we went through to achieve our goals. This is a peculiar perversion in our society, isn't it? If we suddenly become successful almost effortlessly, then people are envious. It really annoys them that we didn't have to go through all kinds of anguish, pain, and suffering to get there. Their mind believes that such anguish is the cost that must be paid for success. So let's look at this belief. If it weren't for the negative programming that made us believe otherwise, why should we go through any cost of pain and suffering to achieve anything in our life? Isn't that a rather sadistic view of the world and the universe? So let's look at this belief. If it weren't for the negative programming that made us believe otherwise, why should we go through any cost of pain and suffering to achieve anything in our life? Isn't that a rather sadistic view of the world and the universe? Other blocks to the achievement of our wants and desires, of course, are unconscious guilt and smallness. Peculiarly, the unconscious will allow us to have only what we think we deserve. The more we hang on to our negativity and the small self-image that results, the less we think we deserve, and we unconsciously deny ourselves the abundance which flows so easily to others. That is the reason for the saying, the poor get poorer and the rich get richer. If we have a small view of ourselves, then what we deserve is poverty, and our unconscious will see to it that we have that actuality. As we relinquish our smallness and revalidate our own inner innocence, and as we let go of resisting our generosity, openness, trust, lovingness, and faith, then the unconscious will automatically start arranging life circumstances so that abundance begins to flow into our life. And then having, doing, and being. As we free ourselves out of the lower states of consciousness, such as apathy and fear, we come into wantingness. What was formerly an I can't and impossible now becomes possible. The general progression of the levels of consciousness as we go from the lowest to the highest is to move from havingness to doingness to beingness. At the lower levels of consciousness, it is what we have that counts. It is what we have that we want. And it is what we have that we value. It is what we have that gives us our self-image of worth and position in the world. Once we have proven to ourselves that we can have, that our basic needs can be fulfilled, that we have the power to provide for our own needs and those of others who are dependent upon us, the mind begins to become more interested in what it is that we do. Then we move to a different social set in which what we do in the world is the basis of our value and how others rate us. As we move up in lovingness, our doingness is less and less preoccupied with self-service and becomes more and more oriented to being of service to others. As our consciousness grows, we see that service, which is lovingly oriented toward others, automatically results in the fulfillment of our own needs. Of our own needs. This does not mean sacrifice. Service is not sacrifice. Eventually, we become convinced that our own needs are automatically fulfilled by the universe and our actions become almost automatically loving. At that point, it is no longer what we do in the world, but who we are that counts. We have proven to ourselves that we can have what we need, that we can do almost anything, given the willingness. And now, what we are within ourselves and to others becomes most important. People now seek our company not because of what we have, not because of what we do and society's labels, but because of what we have become. Because of the quality of our presence, people just want to be around us and experience us. Our social description changes. We are no longer the person who has a fashionable apartment or big car or a bric-a-brac collection, nor are we labeled as the president of the so-and-so corporation or a member of the board of directors of some organization. Now we are described as a splendid person, as somebody whom people just have to meet, just have to know. We become described as a charismatic person. This level of beingness is typical of self-help groups. In self-help groups, no one is interested in what others do in the world or what they have. They are only interested in whether or not we have achieved certain inner goals, such as those of honesty, openness, sharingness, lovingness, willingness to help, humility, genuineness, and awareness. They are interested in our quality of beingness. So, that was pretty awesome. And then after I was done reading that part, I just flipped open again and went straight to chapter 8, and that was the chapter on anger. So anger may vary all the way from rage to mild resentment. It includes revenge, outrage, indignation, fury, jealousy, vindictiveness, spite, hatred, contempt, wrath, argumentativeness, hostility, sarcasm, impatience, frustration, negativity, aggression, violence, revulsion, meanness, rebellion, explosive behavior, agitation, abusiveness, abrasiveness, smoldering, sullenness, pouting, and stubbornness. These variations of anger are well exemplified by the daily news on television. Anger may come up about the technique of surrender itself. Anger that one is expected to let go of feelings that in the past have been valued. Anger at the fear of loss. Anger at feelings in general. Anger at a feeling that does not relinquish immediately. There is a lot of energy in anger, and therefore we may actually feel energized when we are irritated or angry. One of the tricks people learn is to move up quickly from apathy and grief into anger, and then to jump from anger to pride, and then on into courage. In anger, there is the energy for action. This results in doingness in the world. When the have-nots of the world become energized by desire and move up to anger over what they lack, that anger moves them into actions necessary to fulfill their dreams for a better life. The quantity of suppressed anger in the population can be verified quickly by seeing how popular violence is in the media, where the viewers are presented with a vicarious experience of letting out their anger in the form of beatings, shootings, stabbings, lynchings, killings of various bad guys. We typically feel so much guilt about anger that we find it necessary to make the object of our anger wrong so that we can say our anger is justified. Few are the persons who can take responsibility for their own anger and just say, I am angry because I am full of angriness. But I'm not going to identify with my anger, but I am going to say I'm feeling angry. I'm not going to say I am angry. But yeah, just because it feels more true for me to say I'm feeling angry right now rather than I am angry. So anyway, that's just me. And so using anger positively. It is common for people to repress their anger, aggression, and inner hostility. They view it as unpleasant, undignified, and even as a moral failure or spiritual setback. So that's where we get into spiritual bypassing, and we, suppress it or repress it again. So they do not realize that repressed anger is nonetheless the energy of anger, and if not acknowledged and worked through, it will have deleterious consequences to their health and overall progress. The intention behind anger is negative, and it will have similar consequences even if it is not expressed. A helpful approach is to view the energy of anger positively and to use it to fire up our ambitions and our actions in a useful way. For instance, let's say that we are angry at our boss. We feel resentful. He never seems to acknowledge our abilities or efforts, but we know it's unwise to express anger and resentment. It would very likely result in the loss of our job, or at least bring on the continued resentment of the boss. At best, the expression of anger would result in a tacky situation. Instead, we can make a decision to use that energy in a constructive way in our own behalf. It can be the inspiration for us to create a project that, because of its excellence, proves our point. It might be the energy for us to move up and out of a situation that is unsatisfactory. We can utilize that energy to create new job opportunities or find a better job, form a committee, improve our employment situation, start a union, or whatever we think would benefit our personal goals. In personal relationships, the same opportunity exists. The anger can be utilized to inspire us to improve our communication skills, take a course on interpersonal relationships, or enroll in a self-improvement program. The anger can inspire us to rededication, to put forth clarity of effort, and to actually do a better job. In this way, the situation can result in recommitment. It can inspire us to look within ourselves and relinquish all the negative feelings via acceptance. Instead of being mad about it, we can accept it. And so, yeah, that's what I've been working on, is acceptance. I'm like, okay, I feel this way right now, and that's okay for me to feel right now. And what is this for? What is this offering for me? Or what is this offering to me? Well, how is this happening for me? Yeah, that kind of a thing. And so, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Sometimes I never know what exactly I'm gonna share, and I just kind of go with it though. But yeah, what else wants to be shared about that, and what's been going on related to that? After I read the letting go, first little part about desire, that was kind of like interesting, because I was kind of looking into that, and I was like, oh, so yeah, what else can I choose? And what's right for me? Like, how do I get to write this for me? And so letting go, that's interesting. Desire and letting go, lower and higher consciousness, having, doing, and being. I was thinking about that this morning, like why we tend to sometimes overly identify ourselves with what we have or what we own, or why we've been so conditioned to identify or label ourselves like by our positions or our worldly successes, and not by who we really are. Propping up a false outer image or persona of worth and legitimate value, a story, a description, or measure, or a standard of status or external values. And worrying so much about what all others may think, or the ways they will see us, judge us, feel about us, perceive us, etc. So my desire is to be loved, accepted, valued, and allowed to be myself. My inner conflicts and how to reconcile this for myself. So I am loved and I am accepted. I am allowed. I am and I allow myself. I love myself, I accept myself, I approve of myself. I value myself, I belong to myself. I am free to be, discover, express, become myself. I am supported, loved, held, cared for, and valued. I am love for myself, always. I allow myself as I am, and as all I get to be. I let go of my desire to be seen as right or validated by that which lies outside of me. So, And I also wrote, am I really so afraid of losing myself? So let go and surrender resistance. I already have all I need here and now in this moment. So be present to receive the gifts that are available and accessible to me right here, here, here. Listen, dear. Cheers. Thanks, love, for always being here. So, yeah, that's all I have written today. But just working through, yeah, this continuity, this process of forgiveness. And yeah, so that was interesting to see today. Like, I didn't really realize that there was a part of me that felt angry with them for being afraid. And for being in fear, like, because like some of it to me seemed like, yeah, something they were choosing, and I didn't approve of their choice. You know, like, why are they choosing that? And like, it is really about that ego need to control things or to feel safe and everything. So it is a survival strategy. And so, yeah, I can see like why, and have compassion for, yeah, those feelings of fear and the delusions or the illusions. Yeah, that fear creates and recycles, yeah, in the pain body. And so, yeah, I was looking at some videos and or wrote down some things about fear. I'm just going to share like a couple things. So, all one's neighbors are in the grip of some uncontrolled and uncontrollable fear. In lunatic asylums, it is a well-known fact that patients are far more dangerous when suffering from fear than when moved by rage or hatred. So, yeah, that explains a lot of things. So, indeed, so that's Carl Jung. Indeed, it is becoming more obvious that it is not famine, not earthquakes, not microbes, not cancer, but man himself who is man's greatest danger to man, for the simple reason that there is no adequate protection against psychic epidemics, which are infinitely more devastating than the worst of natural catastrophes. Carl Jung, The Symbolic Life. The totalitarian systems of the 20th century represent a kind of collective psychosis. Whether gradually or suddenly, reason and common human decency are no longer possible in such a system. There is only a pervasive atmosphere of terror and a projection of the enemy imagined to be in our midst. Thus, society turns on itself, urged on by the ruling authorities. Joost Meerlo, The Rape of the Mind. I'm not sure if I pronounced his name right, but it's spelled Joost, and last name Meerloo. Crimes the individual alone could never stand are freely committed by the group, smitten by madness. Carl Jung, The Symbolic Life. The phenomenon we have witnessed in Germany was nothing less than the outbreak of epidemic insanity. No one knew what was happening to him, least of all the Germans, who allowed themselves to be driven to the slaughterhouse by their leading psychopaths like hypnotized sheep. Carl Jung, After the Catastrophe. And the phase of panic when the individual starts to perceive things in a different way is frightened on account of it, appears confused, and does not know how to explain the strange things that are happening. This was Silvano Ariati and his interpretation of schizophrenia, the psychogenic states that lead to madness, an abnormal way of dealing with an extreme state of anxiety. So it was interesting. It was from Academy of Ideas, and I can't remember what the title of the video was, but yeah, I had a lot of good gems in it that I appreciated. And so 2 factors are important in the dynamics of a psychotic break. One is an ego that is weak or insecure, and the other factor is a flood of feeling that cannot be integrated by the ego. Alexander Lowen, The Voice of the Body. And so I found that was kind of interesting to kind of understand like a little bit more about like the madness and the illusion, delusion, confusion. It's happening. And the hypnotized, paralyzed. Yeah. And so, I guess I don't know, what actually it's going to take and what needs to happen, for things to be brought into the light, or for us to kind of be worn down so much that all there is left to do is surrender, But that is a long, drawn out process and a painful process if we're not willing, to allow that shamanic death to occur, to happen, to go through that. It can be very, very long, drawn out process. And a lot more painful than it needs to be, but And I guess that's kind of one of the things, just wanting to avoid the pain and suffering as much as possible, but maybe it's just what's needed, to awaken in certain ways. But that reminds me, and I'm going to close out with this. I picked up Dancing the Dream, The 7 Sacred Paths of Human Transformation, Jamie Sams. And I just want to share the 3rd path of initiation, because there's some gems and nuggets in here that relate. So, 3rd path of initiation, the west direction on the medicine wheel. The west direction on the medicine wheel is the place of introspection and listening. The 3rd path of initiation teaches us about healing and contains many lessons that help us reclaim the fragments of ourselves that may have been wounded or denied at various times throughout our lives. In the West, we find ourselves looking at the duality of life, our fears and our loves, our strengths and our weaknesses, our joys and our sorrows. We learn how to respond to our healthy shame when we know we have done something that needs to be corrected, becoming accountable for our actions. And so we acknowledge our ability to heal when we become willing to correct our behaviors and to make amends if necessary. We learn how to release unhealthy guilt, which comes from accepting the unreasonable expectation of others. We become aware of when we are adopting self-sabotage and shadow-like behaviors, and we correct our old ways of being in order to move forward into healing potential. The earlier lessons of learning how to observe the obvious, which began on the 2nd path, are now approached in earnest. We begin going within the self for answers instead of seeking those bits of wisdom and truth from outside sources. On the 3rd path of initiation, we again will be required to face our fears and to look at all of our behaviors that may be coming from our ego's sense of self-importance or the shadow side need to negate our sense of well-being. We hone our skills of discernment, and we make choices about how we want to view the behavior of others in relation to our own behaviors, past and present, determining what we are willing to experience in our individual frames of reference. This act of observation, followed by decisive action, is how we create healthy boundaries, which instill a sense of well-being. As human beings, we have sacred space, which encompasses our bodies, our thoughts, our feelings, our possessions, and our creative energy. As we learn the next level of how to respect the sacred space belonging to us, we are required to look at what we allow inside that sacred space. The boundaries of our sacred space are determined by healthy or unhealthy attitudes. If we have enough self-esteem to refuse to allow abusive behaviors in our sacred space, we have conquered one major challenge of the 3rd path. We learn to release the need to defeat the self with our own thoughts, we let go of the need to be critical of others, and we detach from others who insensitively direct physical, emotional, or verbal abuse toward us. Depending on the individual, the 3rd path can contain more lessons and the longest set of initiations. We are asked to begin the process of healing addictions, old pain or trauma, physical illness, emotional instability, unhealthy psychological patterns, childhood issues, manipulation or control behaviors, dysfunctional relationships, and any other forms of imbalance. I do not intend to downplay the number of issues that are presented to those of us who embrace the 3rd path, yet we all must discern individually what we need to heal. Like all the paths, this one is longer for some people than for others, simply because of the differences in human experiences. We experience trauma and pain in our own unique ways. Some people heal their wounds as they occur and move on, while others carry the pain with them for years. When we heal the imbalances created from our past wounds and embrace life from our present viewpoint, we see our experiences from a new perspective. Eventually, if we can let go of the past, we are able to to be authentically grateful for our wounds, our harrowing experiences, and the brutality that we may have endured. Through healing those wounds, we become healed healers who have embraced our own suffering and transformed our lives. Healed human beings stand tall as examples for others. Nobody can belittle the life of a healed healer. The human being who has authentically healed his or her past has an unshakable, intimate knowing of the value contained in the journey of healing the self and in the bravery required of all spiritual warriors. I will say once again that each of the 7 paths of initiation dovetails into the others. It is possible to be completing lessons on the 3rd path and the 2nd path at the same time we are beginning some 4th path lessons. How each person experiences these initiations is as individual as the human being. Remember that these paths are not linear. We seem to want to view life like a ladder, but the idea of linear growth disallows the multitude of possibilities that humans are given to grow in different areas simultaneously. To judgmentally label a person as being on a particular path that we view as less enlightened than our own is an erroneous folly created by the shadow side of human nature. Some people learn the lessons of physicality through athletically developing the body. Others evolve and heal through expressing their emotions. Others explore human potential through developing the gifts of the intellect, and others seek the meaning of life through mysticism, prayer, and spirituality. All forms of growth are valid, and how we piece these elements together in our lives is an expression of our uniqueness as human beings. On the 3rd path, we embrace what we call frog medicine in our Native American traditions. Frog teaches us to cleanse the old through clearing our thoughts, behaviors, and feelings. Frog teaches us that shedding tears can be the first step of this cleansing transformation. The purification process represented by frog medicine is the ability to cleanse all that keeps us from healing and to refill ourselves with a new energy, renewed purpose, and feelings and thoughts that support our intent to change. This 2-step process of cleansing the old and refilling with the new will be present in every step that we take toward healing our lives on the 3rd path. Bat, the Mayan symbol of rebirth, is another medicine that we are asked to embrace on the 3rd path. After we have purified the aspects of our lives that no longer serve us, we are reborn, leaving the past behind. Bat teaches us to respect the rebirth process as we learn how to operate from our new sacred point of view. We have earned the new beginnings in our lives, and we are required to shelter the seeds of our personal potential that we have planted through our own efforts. Bat hangs upside down in the cave like human babies do as they await birth in the womb. This upside down position is also a metaphor for how we must sometimes change everything in our lives, turning it all topsy-turvy before we can be reborn into our new states of being. During the rebirth process, as in our mother's wombs, we hear the echoes of every thought as well as the double heartbeat. The double heartbeat signals the harmony of our heartbeat as it melds with the heartbeat of the Earth Mother, who encourages us to continue healing our lives. So, yeah. Dancing the Dream by Jamie Sams. So I appreciated that when I flipped that open today and just read, those couple pages. And so I went back to my medicine cards book and I read about frog again and bat again and read the whole thing, and it was just like, wow, that's awesome. Like super helpful and super appreciated. Like those gifts that I got to receive, that I was open to receive. And Frog was reminding me like to take a break and to enjoy life. And it's also about blocks too. And then I was feeling like, like it's almost like being stuck in a birth canal in certain ways. And so that was kind of interesting, because kind of feeling stuck, but knowing that it's moving though. It is, but and then also like what is eating me, like where am I being waterlogged, it's like being a sponge. And so like what can I wring out like to make that space and to just dry out dry it all out. I'll just read like a couple lines about frog and then we'll say farewell for now. Frog cleansing, and that goes along with like my story of the handless maiden that I was reading last time. And next time I will start reading about stage 1, the bargain without knowing. So here's frog. cleansing. Sing, frog, sing, call the rains, quench the dryness, cleanse the earth, and then fill me up again. Frog sings the songs that bring the rain and make the road dirt more bearable. Frog medicine is akin to water energy and the east on the medicine wheel. Frog teaches us to honor our tears, for they cleanse the soul. All water rites belong to Frog, including all initiations by water. Water prepares and cleanses the body for sacred ceremony. It is the element we understand best in the womb. Frog, like ourselves, is a polywog in the fetal waters and only learns to hop after it experiences the world of fluidity. The transformation into adulthood prepares Frog for its power to call in the waters of the skies, the rain. In knowing the element of water, Frog can sing the song that calls the rain to earth. When the ponds are dry, Frog calls upon the thunder beings to cleanse and replenish the earth with water. Like Frog, we are asked to know when it is time to refresh, purify, and refill the coffers of the soul. If Frog hopped into the cards you chose today, its ribbit may be calling in the cleansing that you need. If you were to look at where you are today, would you use any of the following words to describe your condition? Tired, overloaded, harried, frustrated, guilty, itchy, nervous, at a loss, empty, or weakened? If so, take a break and allow yourself to bathe in the waters of Frog medicine. This could mean a long, relaxing bath, disconnecting the phone, yelling stop, or taking in a deep, cleansing breaths. The key thought is to find a way to rid yourself of distractions and to replace the mud with clear energy. Then replenish your parched spirit, body, and mind. An ability of Frog medicine people is to give support and energy where it is needed. A Frog medicine person can clean negativity from any environment. Many mediums or clairvoyants who work with cleaning haunted houses carry Frog medicine. Many of the world's seers use water on their hands when tapping into other realms of reality due to water's superconductive nature. In Mayan and Aztec shamanistic practices, the shaman places water in his or her mouth and sprays it over the body of a patient to clear away negative energy. This is done while holding the thought of Frog firmly in the mind so that healing may occur and the patient may be replenished with positive energy. Sometimes dried and stuffed frogs are also used to guard the person's body during the session. Frog speaks of new life and harmony through its rain song. The deep tones of Frog's ribbit are said to be a call to the thunder beings. Thunder, lightning, and rain. The ribbit is the heartbeat that comes into harmony with Father Sky and calls for the replenishment needed. Call to Frog and find peace in the joy of taking time to give to yourself. A part of this giving is cleansing yourself of any person, place, or thing that does not contribute to your new state of serenity and replenishment. Contrary Frog. Frog slipped in the mud and is lying on its back, unable to right itself. Get ready for more mud in your eye. The contrary position of Frog can denote an unwillingness on your part to wipe the mire out of your life. Mud can turn from mire to bog to quicksand if you don't recognize its effect on your present situation. Is someone draining your energy? Are you allowing yourself to ride down the tubes with him? Have you tried to settle someone else's quarrel and gotten in the line of fire? Stop. Recognize what it is that's mucking up the lily pond. Swim with Frog. Frogs, bug eyes, see it all. Dive deeply and then hop to the next lily pad to catch the sun. In this way, you may see exactly what has been draining your energy. At times, all of life's activities can be overwhelming and everyone occasionally needs a break. Contrary Frog can signal one of these moments, but can also portend a time of feeling waterlogged. In feeling waterlogged, you may be dealing with too many emotions or feelings. This is to say that the world is too much with you, or that you have immersed yourself in one idea or activity to the exclusion of all other facets of your life. If this is the case, a break from routine is suggested. Hop to other lily pads or visit other ponds for a while. Negativity is drawn to you when you refuse to give yourself the time and space needed to assume a new viewpoint. Frog in the contrary position is an omen that you are courting disaster if you don't stop and smell the lilies, eat some flies, bask in the sun, and ribbit until the rain comes to refill your spirit. So, yeah, good reminders. And yeah, I do feel like the contrary, is super helpful for me to receive right now, because it has kind of felt like that I've been like in a rut, or kind of needing some replenishment, and that revivifying, and so taking a break and just doing something different, and just letting go of resistance, surrendering, and being willing, to play with this forgiveness and work through it, and then just surrender it as well. Like, choose it and let go of it. And yeah, know that all is well. So yeah, thank you for listening. Hope you're doing well. What's coming up for you? What have you noticed? What are you working through? What are you playing with? All right. Hope to talk to you soon. Take care of yourself. Be love for yourself. I'll see you for now.